Hi there, welcome to my views and news. Breaking news for you. It seems Ethiopia and Somaliland are on the verge of signing final agreement about access to sea, about Ethiopia building a naval base in Somaliland, and about Ethiopia recognizing Somaliland as a country. Somaliland Foreign Minister Dr. Isa a few minutes ago briefed international diplomats in Hargeisa. Secondly, Somaliland has closed some Egyptian uh, organizations which have been working in Somaliland. Obviously, it is in retaliation of Egyptian military deployment in Somalia. Let's start from Somaliland. We know that Ethiopia and Somaliland in January signed memorandum of understanding, which is still a secret because it was never published. But what the Somaliland and Ethiopian leaders said about the MoU, it indicated that under the MoU, Ethiopia would gain access to sea through Somaliland. Ethiopia is a landlocked country relying on Djibouti's port for years. Ethiopia will have access to Djibouti's Berbera port. It will build a naval military base on Somaliland coast. What will Somaliland get in return? Somaliland will get a share in some Ethiopian profitable entity like Ethio Telecom, Ethiopian Airlines, etc. And secondly, most importantly, Somaliland will get recognition as a country from Ethiopia. Somaliland is internationally recognized part of Somalia, but it has been existing as a separate entity, trying to get recognition as a country for decades. If Ethiopia recognizes Somaliland as a country, it would be a big step for Somaliland to be recognized by other countries too. But we have not seen the MoU so far. It has not been made public. These points which I mentioned are based on the statements of Somaliland and Ethiopian leaders. This is what they said about MoU. Back then, they said, I think that within a few weeks, the MoU will be implemented. It could not be implemented. Why? Because Somalia launched a diplomatic campaign. Somalia threatened to stop the implementation of MoU, calling it a violation of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Somalia threatened to back anti-Ethiopia elements too in Ethiopia. It raised the issue of past uh, incidents. It said that Ethiopia annexed Somali territories in the past too, and now Ethiopia wants to annex more. Then Hassan Sheikh signed two defense agreements in the last few months to undermine the Ethiopia-Somaliland MoU. Firstly, Hassan Sheikh signed a defense deal with Turkey. Turkey's forces coming to already they are here, deployed here, but they would train Somalia's forces. They would protect Somalia's territorial waters. And in return, Turkey would get Somalia's, a portion of Somalia's underwater resources. And I think this month, Turkey is set to start digging for oil and gas in Somalia's territorial waters. After that, Hassan Sheikh signed a security cooperation agreement with Egypt. Egyptian troops, Egyptian commandos have arrived in Somalia. Egyptian military armaments have been sent to Somalia as well. And in coming months, more Egyptian troops and military equipment are set to enter Somalia. This is what Hassan Sheikh did to stop to undermine Ethiopia-Somaliland MoU. But now it seems that Somaliland and Ethiopia are set to sign the final agreement. Dr. Isa briefed international diplomatic missions in Hargeisa a few minutes ago. Dr. Isa is Somaliland's foreign minister. 2 points he made in this briefing. Firstly, he condemned the deployment of Egyptian military in Somalia, saying that it would lead to a proxy war. Egypt wants to use this zone, Horn of Africa, to launch its proxy war against Ethiopia. So Egyptian entry in Somalia would complicate the regional security situation. Secondly, he talked about Ethiopia-Somaliland MoU. He said, MoU has been finalized and final agreement between Ethiopia and Somaliland is imminent. Use this word, imminent, means any time, any moment, if moment is the right word, any day the final agreement can be signed. When will this any day come? We don't know. This is what Dr. Isa said. It means that the two countries have agreed on the formalities. We know that Somaliland formed a technical committee which evaluated the implementation of the MoU. It visited the sites proposed for Ethiopian naval base. The technical committee met with Somaliland opposition parties too. Ethiopia also did its work, and a law firm was also hired, reportedly. A British law firm was hired to draft the final agreement. It seems that the British law firm has drafted the final agreement, which could be signed anytime. We don't know when, but anytime it could be signed, according to Dr. Isa. Egyptian military entry in Somalia is going to accelerate the implementation of Ethiopia-Somaliland MoU, and it will, I think, hurt chances of resolution of Ethiopia-Somalia tension through dialogue. That is why the third round of talks between Ethiopia and Somalia, planned for the 17th of September, I think, is in danger. It might not be held, keeping in view the rising military tensions on Somalia, Somali region of Ethiopia border, keeping in view Egyptian military entry. I think that the third round of talks should be held, because the way military tensions are rising, Ethiopia sending military reinforcements to Somali region, to Somalia, to capturing airstrips and airports, consolidating its control of airstrips, airports on Somalia side of the border. The lack of communication could lead to military escalation too. So that is why talks should continue. Let's hope the two sides meet in September after a week. But it's not clear, will the two sides join the talks in Ankara? Turkey hosted the two earlier rounds of talks, but no agreement could be signed. Somaliland says it is fully ready to sign the final agreement with Ethiopia. Confirmation from Ethiopia missing so far. Let's see what Ethiopia says. But in recent days, we have seen statements from Ethiopian authorities. They have been rejecting Egyptian deployment of military in Somalia, criticizing Egyptian military entry in Somalia. Meanwhile, Somaliland has shut down some Egyptian organizations. An Egyptian cultural center and library have been closed. They were situated in Hargeisa, very close to Somaliland's presidential palace and parliament. Somaliland government says that the Egyptian cultural center and library have been closed because of their proximity to sensitive locations. Uh, will these two places, will the library and cultural center be relocated to some other area, or have they been banned from operations in Somaliland? It's not clear. Basically, Somaliland is reacting to the deployment of Egyptian military in Somalia. That is why it has closed the Egyptian Cultural Center and Library.